Hey everybody, let's talk a little bit about leadership. So I recently decided I wanted to go back and reread John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's one of my favorite leadership books. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest you pick it up. But so one of the laws of leadership that he talks about is the law of the lid. And I'm just going to quote from the book here. The law of the lid is leadership ability is the lid that determines a person's level of effectiveness. So basically, what he says in this rule is that your ability to be a leader will determine your ability to be effective, right? So if you have high leadership ability, you will have high effectiveness. If you have low leadership, you'll have low effectiveness. But so I want to talk a little bit differently about it, right? Because there's also situations where you're at your job and you report to a boss, or maybe you work for a smaller company and you report to the owner of the company or the CEO of the company. And that person, believe it or not, has low leadership ability. So because you're underneath that person, their leadership lid is going to put a lid on your effectiveness as well. Because you can't be the effective leader you want to be if the leader above you isn't an effective leader either. And I can speak from that directly because I've had that experience. I was working for a very small firm in Texas, and owner of the company and the co-partners just really had no leadership ability. And well, they didn't have no leadership ability, but it was very limited, and they had a very limited mindset of what it took to do what we did for work. And so one interesting thing about John Maxwell's book is he talked about, he's referring to the McDonald's story. If you're not familiar with it, there's plenty of books you can read about, but he says here in the book, referring to the original owners of McDonald's, he says their thinking patterns clamped a lid down on what they could do and become. It's so powerful. Again, their thinking patterns clamped a lid down on what they could do and become. And so when you are in a position where you are under a leader that has a limited amount of leadership skills, again, that's going to affect your leadership ability. And I would even go so far as to say, let's say, independent of your company, let's say your leadership is at a 7 if you're outside your company, but inside your company you are under a leader who's, let's say, a 5. I would go as far as to say that if that leader is a 5, that your leadership effectiveness and your ability to be a leader within an organization is probably a 5 or less, because that their lid is going to prevent you from being the leader that you need to be. And so if you find yourself in that situation, obviously it's a struggle. And when I was at that job myself, it was a struggle for me because I knew how to do all of these things to bring in more revenue and bring in more clients. I knew what I needed to do it, and I knew the leadership steps I needed to take to accomplish it and how to be effective to accomplish it. But because the leader I was under had such a limited amount of leadership ability and such a lack of vision, similar to the lack of vision the original McDonald's founders had, it prevented me from being able to do what I wanted to do because they just couldn't see it. And no matter how much I laid it out and how I explained it and how I used my leadership ability to express that, they just couldn't see it. They didn't understand it, and it kept me from being able to really be as effective as I wanted to be in that job. And so ultimately, when I came to realize that just wasn't going to be the case, that I wasn't going to be able to out-leader the leader, so to speak, I realized it was time to move on, and I started looking for a job. Fortunately, I did find a job and was able to move on. So I would say if you are in that position, if you really have a strong leadership ability, but you feel like you're being limited by the leaders that are above you, I really feel like the law of the lid applies there, because I really feel that because you're reporting to those leaders, that their limited leadership ability is going to affect your ability to lead. So if you're in that spot, I really encourage you to get out there, start looking for another job, keep the job you have, do the best job you can while you're there, but get out there, get your resume ready to go, get your LinkedIn profile updated, start applying to jobs, get out there and network, but find that spot, find that position where you are going to be able to be celebrated and you'll be able to use your full leadership ability to maximize your effectiveness at the job. All right, that's all I got for now. Talk to you later.